Good day, everyone. This is student midwife Rahel from CAF University, and then I'm here today to discuss a very important obstetric topic with you. And I'm sure you have guessed it by now. That is fetal scald. Okay, so what is the importance of this scald that we have to know about it? As midwives, because mostly during labor, it is the fetal scald that presents. That's the cephalic presentation. So it is very important for us to know about this scald, so as to know how to do the maneuverings when it is presenting. Okay, so the process of this scald formation is known as the intramembranous ossification. Intramembranous ossification, and it is gotten from the neural crest and the mesoderm. So this neural crest and then the mesoderm will form the neurocranium and then the viscerocranium. Neurocranium and the viscerocranium. The neurocranium are talking about the bones of the skull, whilst the viscerocranium is talking about the bones of the face. But today, our attention is going to be on the bones of the skull, not the bones of the face. So that means we will put the viscerocranium aside and talk about the neurocranium. Okay, so the neurocranium is going to give us the dermatocranium and then the chondrocranium. The dermatocranium is the membranous part. It will give us some of the bones of the head. That is like the frontal bone and then the occipital bone, the frontal bone, the occipital bone. Then the chondrocranium is the cartilaginous part and is the soft part. It's going to give us like the temporal bone and then some others, and then the sphenoid bone and some other bones. Okay, so by 12 weeks of gestation, when they do scans, the parts of this fetal skull can be seen. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the bones that form the fetal skull, the measurements, the sutures, and then the fontanelles, and then the regions of the skull. Then we will first of all start from the parts of the skull. So the parts of the fetal skull are three. We have the vault, we have the face, and then the base. We have the vault, the face, and then the base. Okay, so the vault, we're going to talk about the bones that form the vault. It is 5 bones that make up the vault. We have the 2 frontal bones, the 2 parietal bones, and then 1 occipital bone. 2 frontal bones, 2 parietal bones, and then 1 occipital bone. Okay, although we have some other bones entering into it laterally, like the temporal bone and then the other bones, like the sphenoid bone, they are not part of the vault. So it's just 5 bones. Let's remember that 5 bones make up the vault. Okay, so right now we are coming to talk about the sutures and then the fontanelles. So the sutures, it is 2 bones coming together that forms the sutures. Where 2 bones meet, that is what forms the sutures. So we have about 4 important sutures in obstetrics. We have the coronal sutures that enters laterally, and then it is joining the frontal bone and then the parietal bone. Then we have the sagittal sutures, that is here. It's joining the 2 parietal bones. Then we have the lambdoidal suture at the back. It's entering obliquely. So it is joining the parietal bone and then the occipital bone. So those are the 4 sutures. How did we say they are? We have the coronal sutures joining the parietal and the frontal bone, sagittal sutures joining the 2 parietal bones, the lambdoidal sutures joining the parietal and then the occipital bone. Those are for the sutures. Then we have about 6 fontanelles, but it's just 2 that's of obstetrics important. And then those are the anterior fontanelle and then the posterior fontanelle. And fontanelle is where more than 2 bones join, so like 3 or 4. For the anterior fontanelle, we'll see that is the meeting place for the frontal suture, the coronal suture, and the sagittal suture. So it's like 4 places are joining into the anterior fontanelle. And then it has a diamond shape because of that 4 this thing. And then it closes by 18 months. That's like 1.5 years. So what this thing is supposed to close at 18 months. So the early closure or the late closure can be a sign for complications. Then we'll talk about the posterior fontanelle. This is where the sagittal and then the lambdoidal sutures meet. And it has a triangular shape because it's just 3. And this one closes by 6 to 8 weeks. And then as I said for the anterior fontanelle, the early or the late closure of this also can be a complication. Okay, so now after talking about the sutures and then the fontanelles, we are going to talk about the regions of the skull. So we have 4 regions. We have the vertex, we have the sinciput, the vertex. Here we have the sinciput, which is also known as the brow. We have the face, and then we have the occiput. Okay, we'll take them one by one. So for the vectors, it starts from the anterior fontanelle in front to the posterior fontanelle at the back. That's for the vectors, this part of the skull. Then for the sinciput, it starts from the supraorbital ridges here, just above the brow, to the anterior fontanelle. And that's why it's also known as a brow presentation. Then we have the face, which starts from just under the brow to the chin, face. Then the occiput, it starts from the landoidal suture in the posterior fontanelle down. That's the occiput. Those are for the regions of the skull. Then we will talk about the diameters now. So for the diameters, we have two. We have the biparietal, okay, and then we also have the anterior-posterior from the front to the back, anterior-posterior measurements. But for the biparietal, it measures like about 9.6 centimeters. But there is something with the anterior-posterior diameter. It is not fixed because of the degree of flexion and then the extension of the fetal skull. Okay, so we'll divide that, or we'll talk about it in 5 ways for the anterior-posterior diameter. So the first one we are going to talk about is the sub-occipito-bregmatic. Okay, I missed something. The anterior fontanelle is also known as the bregma, and then the posterior is also known as the lambda. Okay, so that will help us in the diameter right now. So we have the sub-occipito-bregmatic from under the occiput, just here, to the bregma. Okay, and it measures 9.5 centimeters, and that is known as the well-flexed vertex. This is normally the way the baby should present. Okay, then we have the sub-occipitofrontal from the same point to the frontal, and then this measures 10.5 centimeters, and it's known as the partially deflected vertex. Okay, then the third one is going to be the occipitofrontal, and it measures 11.5 centimeters, and this is also known as the deflected vertex. Okay, then the fourth one is going to be from the mental, which is also known as the chin. Okay, so we have the mental vertical from the chin to the vertex, mental vertical, and it measures 13 centimeters and is the longest diameter, and this is not favorable to both the mother and the baby. Okay, so we said earlier that this is like the brow presentation from the chin to the vertex, and it's the longest. Don't forget that, 13 centimeters. Then the last one we are going to talk about is the submental-bregmatic, and it also measures 9.5 centimeters, and this is the face presentation. So today, what did we talk about? We spoke about the importance of this fetal skull. We spoke about the things that form it. Okay, so as we said the vault has 5 bones, but there are some few bones that also enter laterally. Okay, like the temporal bone. It is just here, the temporal bone. You can feel it on your own head. And then we have the sphenoid bone, and then one ethmoid bone. But the ethmoid bone, it cannot be seen. It's inside. Okay, so let's add moulding. So moulding is how the head of the baby, or let's say the fetal skull, overlaps to be able to pass through the birth canal. Okay, so we have no moulding, plus 1 moulding, plus 2 moulding, and then plus 3 moulding. Then when we talk about no moulding, that means this parietal bone that we spoke about, they are not touching each other. Okay, then the plus 1 moulding, they are touching each other, but they are not firm. And that one, there is no complication, or there is nothing wrong with it. Then we have the plus 2 moulding. That one, they are slightly overlapped, but it can be separated. And that's when sometimes you can see the caput formation. Then we also have plus 3 moulding. That one, the parietal bones are overlapped, but it can't be separated. And these are usually signs of obstructed labor. So the midwife is supposed to notice all these things. Okay. So as I said, we spoke about the importance, the bones of the fetal skull, We also spoke about the sutures and the fontanelles. We spoke about the regions of the scalp, the diameters, and then moulding. So this is what we have for today. In case you have anything to ask or anything to add up, you can say that in the comment section. Thank you very much. Bye.